Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Non-duality.live. We have Neil Denham. Neil, say hello.
Hi, hi Emerson. Hi everyone. Should I just start?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Right. Okay. Well, yes. Welcome everyone to something that could be loosely called a non-duality meeting. I say loosely because really, non-duality is just another concept. Really, from with this message, what's being pointed to is that non-duality isn't a something that can be recognized. It isn't a something that can be gotten. It isn't a state that can be achieved through a process of some kind. What's actually being suggested in this meeting is that the non-dual, so to speak, is what is already, which is that there is no separation. There is no separation because there is already no. What's being suggested here is that what's longed for is already everything. So there's no one to become anything. There isn't a somewhere else or a something else. There isn't something to be discovered. There's nothing lost or missing from this, from what is already. So we could also say this meeting is a response. It's a response to a contracted energy which gives rise to the sense to be someone who is separate from the whole. So with this sense to be separate or to be someone who is separate from the whole, that the person is separation, then begins seeking. Duality is born from this sense of separation. So then seeking begins because for the person, it feels as though something is missing. So it then goes on a journey to look for something which it feels will make this in some way whole and complete. So it starts to explore for some people, not for everyone. For some people, with this sense to be someone and this sense of separation, there can be a kind of a noticing that in some way that fulfillment isn't to be gotten from some of the more sort of typical things in life like work, money, relationships, sex, drugs, that kind of thing. So it begins to explore deeper, more meaningful ways to find fulfillment. So very often it goes on a seeking journey and explores things like spirituality, therapy. It's looking for that fulfillment. So it begins to explore in these other directions. So it's looking for something a bit deeper and a bit more meaningful. So the sense for the someone is to be on a journey to find what's longed for, to seek for this fulfillment. But the suggestion here is that the me will never find what's longed for because there's nothing actually missing. This is already whole and complete. There is already no separation.
Hele, rádi, ať něco řeknu. Já budu mít teď zoomík. Nechtěl...
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Neil.
So there's nothing to find because this is already what's longed for, which is impossible for the separate me to see that this is already. Because that very sense to be someone is that there is somewhere else, there is something else to find what it feels is missing. So I think really, Emerson, I'll just go straight in and open up for people to ask questions. Some people may have already been to a meeting like this and listened to this kind of message before. So we'll just jump right in. There's a few people here now.
If you have any questions, you can raise your hand. You can also ask your question via chat.
think William's got his hand up.
Hi, Neil.
Hey, William.
What's on my mind at the moment is when we were talking earlier and you were saying that the seeking doesn't actually need to stop. So would you also say that this message doesn't even need to happen?
Well, this message is happening as a response to that seeking energy. Because to that seeking energy, there is a need. And actually, but what the response here is to that need is that nothing is needed. So it's a pointing to what is already.
I suppose for the individual, because it always thinks it needs something. And now I think, well, I found this message, even if it was by accident, this will give me what I want, hopefully.
Yes, well, that's what the me is looking for, and as I was saying just now, is the me feels that it is on a journey to find what it feels is missing. Because with that sense to be someone, there is that sense of separation, and that what seems to happen with that sense of separation is the feeling that something is lost or something is missing, and there is something somewhere else to be found, which is going to make this whole and complete. So the message is that whole thing is a dream. That whole thing, that whole construct, the sense to be someone is only happening, it's an illusory experience. So because it's an illusory experience, the illusion can't find a solution to the illusion. Because it isn't real, it isn't actually happening. So the me will never find what's longed for because it can never get out of the illusion, and an illusion cannot dispel itself.
So obviously listening to the message can seem to be relaxing, or it seems the seeking can start to get softer or less intense around this communication. And then the dream is that that's taking me somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's part of the dream, to be on a journey. And what the me does when it hears this message is it will try and add it to its experience or add it to its journey. How can I use this to get further along on my journey, to find what I feel is missing, or to find what's longed for, or to find something that is going to make this whole and complete. But of course, this is already whole and complete. So there's actually nothing needed. So there's no actual journey. The whole sense to be someone who's on a journey is a dreamt reality. It's a dreamed experience, and that's what becomes obvious in the end: is that there is actually no one to be on a journey, and that even that experience. Sorry, just to finish. Even that experience to be someone on a journey is what's longed for, appearing to be that experience, and that's the impossibility. So me can sort of get a hold of concepts like there's nothing being everything. No one understands that, of course, no one knows that, but it can kind of work with some of the concepts we might talk about with this message, like this is timeless. It can look at something like time, even conceptually, and think, well, yeah, I can kind of get that, time is in some way apparent. Sometimes it goes faster, sometimes it goes more slowly. But what the me can never see is that what's longed for is already. So it's also that seeking experience. It's also that sense to be someone who feels separate. So this is so whole, it can even appear as a sense to be separate.
And that only on that when you say that, because this is so whole, it can appear as that experience to be separate. And I think, well, there seems to be a lot of suffering in that experience, and so it's not fair that can happen. But the idea that it's not fair for feeling separate to arise is only coming out of the dream that something's wrong.
Yeah, well, that tends to be part of the experience. That sense, that what comes with that sense of separation is that something's wrong, something's lost, something's missing. And that's what can become. So it can be that we've talked about this sort of contraction in the body, this contracted energy, which gives rise to this sense to be someone, that can suddenly collapse, that can suddenly fall away. And what seems to happen with that falling away is the recognition that there was never anything separate or apart from the whole. There was just the whole appearing as that separation for a time, so to speak.
And even when you
And
say that,
it just seems so obvious. And I've heard some speakers say it's like you're sitting in it, asking where it is. How do I find it? Where is it? It is this. It's this talking now, happening. That's what's long for.
I'm resonating with this energetically, but I can't. My mind is just saying no, Neil, no. But I can feel
No,
a
of
deep
course.
relaxation arising in my like upper body, like in the front, like my chest, my stomach, and that. Because like some speakers say, this is already known in a way, and I guess obviously that's not about the knowing of the me, but something resonates, doesn't it?
Something's recognized, yeah. Something recognizes the no thing that's being shared in this message. The no thing there is recognizing the no thing here or in the message. There's not just no thing here, everything is no thing. This whole communication, this talking happening right now is no thing appearing as that. But in some way, the no thing there is the no thing there that has the sense to be something is recognizing the no thing here, which no longer has the sense to be something or more specifically someone.
And that's both relaxing and confronting.
Yeah. Well, it can be relaxing, I guess, in a way. Part of what this message can do also is it can kind of deconstruct in a way some of the sort of false ideas and beliefs around sort of so-called awakening, if you want to call it that word, or liberation or freedom. And that's usually a lot of that is about sort of the kind of ideas and conceptions that the me has about liberation and freedom and what it should look like, how it should be. Oh, it has to look a certain way. It has to be like this. Freedom has to be about being peaceful and never losing your temper, or it has to look a certain way. Freedom is this, but it can't be that and that and that.
Thanks, Neil. That's awesome.
Thanks, William.
Thank you, William. I have a couple of questions here. The first one is from Kane. Can you talk about peace?
Yeah, well, I think that's also one of the things that the me imagines freedom should be. Unconditional freedom should be peaceful all the time. There's certainly no one being at peace or feeling at peace all of the time. But a lot of, I would say, the neuroticism that comes along with that sense to be someone is gone. That falls away with that when there is no longer the sense to be someone. Because of course there are kind of modalities or symptoms with the sense to be someone, some of which is that this is real, this has meaning and purpose, and I have a life, and my life is important. And because my life is important, the choices and decisions that I make are important because they're going to get me what I feel I need in order to make my life work. So it takes on this whole kind of energetic responsibility in a way, which is, which can create a neurotic experience for the me. It just seems to be a neurotic experience. So when that experience falls away, or apparently falls away, of course, then there's no longer that neuroticism. But I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say that. So anything can still arise. So anxiety could still arise, but it's just not arising for someone. So feeling, I'm trying to think of what the opposite of peaceful is, but feeling non-peaceful could arise, but that would be unimaginable peace arising as not peaceful. And that would, of course, not be arising to someone or for someone. That would just be wholeness arising as whatever that is.
Thank you. There's a question here from Claudia. Why is this also called unconditional love? Is it not more an emptiness, absence? Love always implies a feeling, an experience. Can you say why is
Mm.
it called unconditional love?
Well, I would say that's the difference between unconditional love and feeling love for something or for someone. The unconditional love, the unconditional part really means it could be anything. And there just seems to be, it's just difficult to describe. There just seems to be, in that melting away of the separate sense to be someone, there just seems to be a kind of a falling in love. I know that sounds a bit kind of romantic, but it's not for something or for someone, of course. It's really just indescribable. There is a sense, deep sense of just a falling in love. There isn't a thing called unconditional love. There isn't a kind of an energy coming here to this, which is unconditional love, and this isn't. Unconditional love isn't a state. It's just that sense of just deeply falling in love in a way. But that, because it's unconditional, can appear to be anything.
And your co-host William is back again. Go
Yep.
ahead. Go ahead, William.
Sorry.
Hi, William.
Hi, Neil. So basically, when I'm listening, and I said on the one hand there's relaxation happening, on the other hand there's this sort of rejection, like, no, it can't be this, Neil. That it's, in a way, it's almost like the me, if there was a me, is listening to the no thing, describing no thing, and sensing the emptiness of it, and going, this is too empty, this is too nothing, like there's nothing to get hold of.
Well, that's the me responding in that way. This is too empty. There's nothing to get a hold of. It's emptiness resonating with the sense of itself, and that could never be too much, because it is itself naturally, just naturally itself, whole and complete, which is empty, but it's empty fullness.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because the me kind of, well, at least here, is sensing the emptiness and being like, oh, this is shit. If everything's completely empty, I want something I can get. I want something I can get. But it can't. But I think that's the thing, because the me kind of hides or veils over the fullness or the aliveness or whatever word. So it can only see the empty. It can sense that emptiness and feel afraid. It can't get any sense of the fullness, would you say?
Well, the me can probably get a sense of emptiness at times and can get a sense of fullness at times. Certainly, I mean, here there were what I would say is kind of seeking experiences, where there might be sort of meditations where there was emptying the mind, that kind of thing, and there was a sense of just sort of less thinking, or maybe a sense of emptiness, or of kind of almost feeling like emptiness as a quality in a way. And then also there might be sort of feelings of feeling energetically very full or something like that. But the me really can't grasp that emptiness is fullness and fullness is empty, or emptiness at the same time. The emptiness is the fullness, because in the emptiness nothing's needed. How can you? How could that which is already empty need something? How could it need more when it's already empty? So in its emptiness, it is already whole and complete. So the emptiness is the fullness.
The thing is, you might say you're not saying that, but you can say that, and I'm still thinking emptiness bad. There's nothing in that for me.
Well, I'm not saying that, of course. That's emptiness, empty fullness responding to empty fullness there, that thinks this either is about emptiness or it's about fullness, or it's about something at all.
Because the fullness, because you're saying emptiness is fullness, I'm still dividing them like they're two separate things. But the fullness or you said empty fullness, is everything. So it's not, because you were talking about seeking experiences. So in the seeking experiences, the me can get something and it thinks, oh, I feel good now because I got this thing I've been wanting for a while, or that made me feel good for a couple of days. Or maybe if I do that again, I'll have another good experience. But there's still some things are seen as full and other things are seen as not being what having relevance to my story of fulfillment. But when there's no longer the sense of anyone, then everything is that fullness. So the things you like, the things you don't like.
Well, everything is empty fullness when there is no longer sense to be someone. It's absolute poverty and also an absolute abundance. It's absolute poverty, as in there's just nothing left. It's just no thing apparently being everything, but that no thing is everything. Everything hides by being no thing, and no thing hides by being everything. They are just the one and the same thing. So the no thing being everything is, or no thing is everything appearing, and everything appearing is no thing.
And there's no one there seeing that. The absolute poverty and the abundance of everything.
No, it's not a perception. It's not a perspective, or a seeing even. It just is like that. Apparently, of course.
I want to say I'll take your word for it, but I still want to say you can't.
Don't take my word for it. No.
Thanks.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, totally unbelievable.
Completely. Well, I'm thinking, how on earth, can you say that if it's not something like a perspective? That's what I'm thinking.
Well, no one could say that. Because it isn't a perspective. If it was a perspective, then someone could say that, because it would be from a perspective or from a position, from an understanding of some kind.
Thank you.
All that happens in the end is that the need to understand, the need for a perspective, just collapses with that sense of a position or with that sense of here.
So all viewpoints collapse in terms of, because this is about unknowing. So all the concepts the person holds as truths, like, things are this way and those things are that way and blah, 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 blah. That collapses all the viewpoints.
I'm not sure entirely what you mean. Do you mean the sort of opinions on things, or
not so much opinions, but these kind of held beliefs about why everything is the way it is and how things.
Yeah, well, there's no longer a need for beliefs about what, why this is, or life, or anything like that. There's no longer, beliefs are really something that the me creates as a way to kind of find its way through life, as a way to try and make sense of this. But of course it can't, because this is completely without meaning already.
Yeah, that's where the viewpoints come from, the sense that it's about meaning, isn't it? This means something.
Well, it's a need. Beliefs satisfy the need of the individual, which is for this to be known. So the me will create certain belief system as a way to make this known.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, William. A couple of comments in the chat. It is the dog chasing its tail. But the individual is, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is. And even if the individual caught its tail, it wouldn't know what to do with it. It would still be going round and round. And another comment. Seeking is apparently the process of drawing attention to the illusory sense of oneself, which is the intention for those looking to be the centerpiece of the conversation. Okay. Well, seeking is a response. It isn't really about anything. Seeking is just simply an energetic response to the sense to be separate, with the sense that something's lost. So something then needs to be found. So then I need to find what's lost or what's missing. But the seeking will never draw one's attention to the illusory sense of oneself, because the nature of the seeking is to seek. And as the previous comment said, it's just a dog chasing its own tail. Hi Neil, do you ever discuss this message with your family or friends? Not really, no. If a question comes up, there might be a response, but no, generally not. It just doesn't really come up. It's maybe hard to believe, but it's just not important. It's just not a big thing. It's just a seeing of the natural reality, and that's just how it is. And yeah, there's no need to discuss it. So there's no kind of standing in the queue at the supermarket and tapping someone on the shoulder and saying, by the way, all there is empty fullness. Did you know there's no one shopping? It just doesn't come up. All of that stuff just sort of seems to continue as it seems to continue. Hello, could you call the empty fullness God? Well, I suppose on the one hand you could call it anything you like. God isn't a word that I tend to use really, because I think it has a lot of baggage for a lot of people. I think God implies a knowing for most people, that this is in some way known, or that this in some way has a direction, or it has a intention, or a purpose behind it. So it's not a word that I tend to use, because I think it has a lot of baggage. Another comment, the expectation that my prayer will make that person better. Is this me expecting, or is it wholeness? Well, everything is wholeness, just appearing to be whatever that appearance is. But for the person, there may be an expectation that praying or meditating will bring about what's longed for. I think for most people, prayer and meditation has an intention to change what is, to bring about something different, something better, a better experience for themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. The suggestion here is that there is no one, so there is no way to bring about a better experience for the person, or to get any closer to what is felt to be missing, because it's just whole and complete already, naturally as it is. Thank you for making it so clear and obvious. Oh, okay, thank you. Well, that's the message. There's no one here who has an understanding of what's being said. There's no one here who has an experience of what's being said. So wholeness is just being whatever it is, without reason, purpose, or meaning. Yeah, absolutely. Wholeness is already wholeness, for no reason, and for no purpose, or for no meaning. This is completely without meaning, purpose, or reason. Is there still an experience of the body or anything else? No, because actually what's being pointed to here is the end of the experiencer. So there is still an appearance of the body. So if one was to stub one's toe, then there would be pain. Yes, of course. But there's no experience. There's no one in the body or as the body having an experience of the body in that way. So there's no experience of anything actually happening because there is no experiencer. Did your job become easier or harder? Did your job become easier, harder after liberation? It's just simply a job being a job. None of that stuff changes. Because what's recognized in the end is there was no one ever as having a job. Someone asks how to get to that seeing. Well, there is no you, so there is no one who can get to that seeing. That would also suggest that there is a process of some kind that one can engage on in order to see what's being shared here, or to see to become liberated in some way, or to see non-duality. I was going to say that that's not a great term. No one sees non-duality. So there is already no one, so there is no getting to the seeing that there is already no one. It can just be that suddenly the trying to get to the seeing, or the attempting to get to the seeing, can just energetically fall away. And then there is just an obviousness. Obviousness is probably a better word than seeing. There is just an obviousness that there was never anything apart or separate from the whole. There was just the whole appearing as that. If there's no experience, what is it you feel? Sensations and perceptions are different? No, I wouldn't say so. So when there is a sense to be someone, there's a sense of being here. There is a center. And it seems to be then that everything else is happening to that center, or being experienced by that center. So when that center falls away, there is no longer an experience as happening to the center. So there's no actual experience happening in that sense. But sensations and I don't know about perceptions. Perceptions seem to be something that happen in the dream story, to be someone really having a certain perception in a certain way. And what's being shared here isn't a shift of perception, because that would just be another position. There's just no one here as having an experience. And that's actually the same there too. That's nothing special about this at all. It's actually the same there. It's just that for the person, there is a false claiming of I am here, so therefore it feels as though everything is happening to me. So that's an experience. An experience sort of has a quality about it. I'm here, I am experiencing. I don't know what that means. 4 on YouTube, 23 Zoom. And William.
Hi again. So you said that the illusory experience of being a person comes out of a physical tension in the body.
Seems to, an apparent tension in the body, yeah.
So when you say apparent tension, you mean it's not really there?
Well, apparently it is, yeah, but everything is just apparent.
Okay. And the physical tension, because you've said to me before, when it falls away, it's recognized how all pervasive it is, like every fingernail, every eyelash,
Hmm.
and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
no, it's
Just
yeah.
sorry.
No, go on. Yeah, you were saying.
Well, what I was going to ask is that tension physically uncomfortable?
Well, no, there's no way to get out. When there is that tension or that contraction in the body, it seems to be intrinsic to the whole experience of the person. So that tension or that contracted energy seems to arise in everything else too. So there's no way to get outside of that tension, of that contracted energy. That's actually awareness. That contracted energy is awareness. So there's no way to get outside of the awareness of me, of that self-awareness, to be able to then reflect back on that tension, because it's just intrinsic to the whole thing. So there's no way to kind of sense that tension while there does seem to still be that contraction in the body. There's no way to sense that. There's no way to get outside of it, because for the person, or that for that contracted energy, it's the whole thing. It's the whole experience.
So it's not just physical, it's well,
It's sorry, say that again. It's not just physical.
almost like a psychic thing as well.
It seems to sort of, yes, in a way, yeah, in a way. Yeah,
Because
it's a contracted sense to be someone or to be here, which then becomes a knowing, which is a claiming and a knowing of a position of here, which then becomes the I, or I am here. And that it's with that claiming that duality is born, apparent duality, of course.
because the reason I asked that question is because I've been sitting and listening since I asked my last question, and there's just intense anxiety arising in the whole body, like full on strong anxiety. And I'm thinking, is that discomfort arising out of the contracted tension, or would you say that kind of anxiety can happen regardless? That's got nothing to do with the contraction of the me.
Well, I think anxiety can just happen. It can just arise naturally, which is what is happening there too. But if there's a sense to be someone, a sort of contracted sense to be someone there too, then they will claim that anxiety as being their own, which then creates a kind of an extra dynamic. There's kind of anxiety about the anxiety. Oh no, there's anxiety. What do I now do about this? How do I manage this? So it just seems to create an extra dynamic in a way when there is that sense to be someone that the anxiety is happening to.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, William. Is seeking an obligation or guaranteed happening whilst there is an I or a doer? Yeah, seeking seems to be the natural kind of response to that sense to be someone, because the I is separation. Separation isn't something that the I creates. It isn't a thought. It isn't a belief or a false belief in some way. The I, the sense to be someone, or the I am, is separation. So in some way, every I is seeking, but not everyone is seeking perhaps in the same way that some people are when they are looking for that sort of more deeper or more meaningful answer to the problems of life, so to speak. You know, the sense of separation. So some people may be seeking in work or money or something like that. Not everyone seems to question the kind of the deeper sort of fundamental sense of, well, what is life? Why am I here? What am I doing?
There's a question here from Johan. Johan, go ahead, please.
Daniel,
Hi.
wanted to ask you if you would say that this message could be considered as like another possibility from, let's say, like the perception of me and the world, or that like individual setup. Would you say that like it's like another possibility? Because I've heard like Tony Parsons use that word. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think when the seeker, if you like, comes to a meeting like this, then there can be an opening to another possibility, which is what's being suggested here, that actually the whole sense to be someone is an illusion, or it is illusory. It's a dream experience, if you like.
Yeah.
There can be an opening to that other possibility in that sense.
Okay, but wouldn't that make like two possibilities, like some sort of duality, like, you know what I mean? Just having this and then another possibility. That's what confuses me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it would be for the person, of course. Yeah, whether there is a being open to to one possibility or another. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
In the end, there is no message.
And there's
In
no
the end,
possibility.
there's no possibility of something else or other, but then there's no impossibility as well. It just doesn't really become about that in the end. For the person on the seeking journey, there may be an opening to another possibility, in that perhaps this whole sense to be someone isn't real.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. So that just makes one possibility then, because one of them is illusory, or just an illusion, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think for a lot of people who would come here, they perhaps hadn't considered that a possibility before. And
Yeah.
actually, quite often, if someone isn't open to that other possibility, or to a different possibility, or to what's being shared, then there can be adverse reactions. Should we just say that? Should we just say it that way?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think when Tony Parsons is talking about another possibility, I think he's talking about an openness to this message, that for some people there can be an openness to another possibility.
All right. Well, see, like, why I'm asking this, I think, is just that sort of feel like I'm getting stuck there in a way, because I recognize that resonance or that openness in a way, but then I sort of like make it a thing, or make it like, well, this other possibility, almost like it's another reality, or something I could I could grasp, or maybe I could tune into it, so it just,
no, totally.
Like this resonance feels like something like I have to use it in a way, like it's pointing towards something. There's this feeling.
Well, for the person, quite often the resonance is interpreted as being meaningful in some way, which must mean that I'm more open to this, or I am open to this. So perhaps there's a possibility for something to happen.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Johan. Eric, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, Neil.
Hello.
Thank you for your talk so far. I tuned in a little bit late, but I'm just sitting here with this feeling that I don't know why I keep ending up in these kinds of talks. If there's nothing new to learn or to gain, or if there's no direction within which I can move at all. So why do I find myself here? I don't know.
Totally. It seems to be for some people a resonance. As I was speaking to William, I think earlier, is that the no thing there can sense or resonate with the no thing in this message, or to what's being shared in this message in a way. And that's something energetic. It really doesn't have anything to do with the words, because the words are hopeless. I mean, it is a hopeless dilemma for the person, because it's being confronted here with the futility of seeking. That its efforts aren't going to bring about what's longed for, because what's longed for is everything already.
Yeah. I just came across this idea in meditation of, well, on one side of this duality, we try to avoid the contents of consciousness and seek stillness in meditation. On the other side of this duality, we see that all contents of the mind are it, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to generalize that to my waking experience of seeing that all the bumps in the road, the ups and the downs are all it, and allowing myself to just be with that. But I get wrapped up in this notion of being able to do something to be with that, and also this other notion that nothing I can do but be with that, or have the sense that I'm not with that. You know what I mean?
Well, there's no one to be with that or to not be with that, and there's no actual duality. That's perhaps the difference to what's being shared here than, say, in more popular, shall we say, or common non-duality meetings. Is the suggestion in the more popular non-duality meetings is, yes, there is something that you can do in order to be with what's being shared here, that you can come to know the I am as awareness, and also just sit with that awareness, or be with that awareness, and just allow this to be in some way. But that whole thing is just happening in the dream experience, because there is actually already no one. The whole sense to be someone is illusory. So actually the whole sense to be someone sitting in meditation who's trying to find a way to be with this in some way, or balance the duality in some way, is all part of the dream experience. And it can just be that experience can just suddenly fall away as no thought or effort on the part of that dream, because it isn't actually real.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you, Neil, for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Message in the chat. Can you talk about the feeling of constantly trying to be someone or something? Is that all the me is? No, well, me is the energetic sense to be someone. So yes, I guess in that experience, in that dreamt reality, to be someone, there might be a trying to be someone or trying to be something in some way. That seems to be the sort of part of the dynamic to be someone, that it's trying to become something or someone else in some way, or it's trying to be a certain way, or become a certain thing. It's constantly working on itself. You've probably noticed. the me feels the me feels it's separate to everything, including itself. So it feels it needs to work on a relationship with itself as well. So it's constantly trying to improve on its experience and how it is, because it thinks it needs to be a certain way in the world in order to bring about a more comfortable experience. But the whole thing is, it's just happening in a dreamt reality. Does the liberation deepen over time, or is the initial falling away of the self complete from that moment? In a funny kind of way, there does seem to be a deepening. But what's seen is there is no self. So I don't know. I really don't know whether there is just a kind of a residue left, something residual from that experience. I don't know. But there does seem to be a deepening. William.
Oh, there we go. When you were talking to Johan about the resonance, and you were saying when there's an individual, there's a hope that something's going to happen. So you're saying nothing is going to happen.
Well, the me lives in hope constant hope that something is going to happen, because part of that experience is something needs to happen. And what's being suggested here is that this is already what's longed for. You can't get away from it. You can't get any closer to it, but you can't get any closer to it, and you can't be any further away from it, because there isn't a you to be closer to it or further away from it.
Right. So even the sense that something needs to happen is this.
Absolutely. Appearing as that sense that something needs to happen. But there isn't a somewhere or a something else. This is what's happening. There's no other possibility. And that's hope. Hope is always somewhere else. Hope is the hope for somewhere else or for something else that's going to be better than this. Home is this. This is home. It is already.
Because we were talking earlier about change and how change appears, but it's also timelessness appearing as change.
Mm.
So, like, for example, tomorrow you're going to be doing something else, I assume, or maybe even later today you might be eating something or talking to someone else, not in this meeting. To me, it seemed like something happened from point A to point B. This is point A, we're talking in a meeting, you're answering questions. And then point B is later on where you're either eating or doing whatever, not in this meeting, watching something on TV, I don't know. So it seems to me like something happened for there to have been a change.
Well, to the person, it would seem like, yes, that something has happened in order for there to be a change, because it's living in that real sense of time. With the experience to be someone, it's a false claim of a dreamt reality that isn't actually happening. But to the person, it feels real. So everything that arises within the experience or within the separate experience for the person feels very real. It's just assumed to be real. So time is real. So there is a real somewhere else. There is a real something else. There is real change. And not only that, because I am real, because I am here and I am really here and I am really real, then I am going through life and experiencing these changes as they happen. I am moving from A to B. But everything you're talking about there, I mean, even conceptually, you can kind of get, well, that's just a thought arising as this about the future, a possible future.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So there's no other possibility than this. And this is only an appearance. It's neither real nor is it unreal.
There's no other possibility. So this couldn't be anything else.
Well, there's nowhere else for something to happen too. Where would you fall away to?
Well, the story is it hasn't happened yet, so it has to be in the future.
Where would something be lost to?
Yeah. Nowhere. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, William. And Eric, would you like to ask your question? Oh, hello again. Yeah. You need to unmute your mic, Eric.
Hi, so you were just talking to William and the question occurred to me, although there's no sense of time there, did this kind of recognition arise for you spontaneously, or did you spend some time as a seeker?
Well, yes, there was time spent as a seeker, yeah, apparently.
And I haven't yet come across someone for whom this has happened spontaneously. So it seems to me that although there is said to be no correlation here, it seems to me that so often there is an apparent correlation between seeking and some kind of recognition. But if there's no self here to do that seeking, it seems to me that it arises spontaneously. Like there is a sense of lost, a search arises, and then there's a sense of found, or the search falls away. It seems like this process arises spontaneously for nothing and for no one, like a show that's on repeat or something.
Okay, well, I wouldn't call it a process, and here is where the message does sound paradoxical in a way, is that what's recognized in the end is that what's longed for is already everything. So there was never anything to realize, and there was actually never anyone to fall away.
When you say the first part, I feel an immediate resistance. I feel this sense of seeking and a sense of longing. Like, so what that says to me is that even that seeking and longing has to be, as William and you were saying, has to also be it.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, I have nothing else to say, really. I just
And that's the part that's really impossible to see for the person, or for that sense to be someone, is that it is also that too. So what the seeker's looking for is a conditional freedom, a freedom that is somewhere else, that looks a certain way, that feels a certain way, that is a certain way. And whatever that is, I don't know, but it can't possibly be this. There's one thing for sure to the seeker: it can't be this. And that's the undeniability in the end. That's the surprise. It's this. But of course, the seeking then falls away, because when it's recognized that seeking is wholeness, appearing as seeking, and that there was never anyone to be going anywhere on a journey, or to be seeking in that way, and there isn't a something or something else, and that this is whole and complete already, then of course that whole thing just falls away.
I see. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but when you say that, I just get stuck in this feeling of where's my responsibility, and like, if there's nothing to do, but I have this sense that, for example, I need a better job to have a better situation in my life. Will I just remain in that position until a change arises by itself? Like, I have.
Well, sorry to speak over you, but that would be the sense that there is someone there who needs to do something about a job or not. So if a changing job happens, that's just an energetic response to what's happening. There may be a changing job. What happens when there is a sense to be someone is there may just naturally be a changing job, and then there would be a claiming of that, as I did, that I am changing, this is my job, or I am changing my job. The me just sort of comes in and claims everything for itself, as this is mine, this is my journey, this is a part of my journey, this is my job, I'm making these decisions, I'm making these choices so that I can have a better outcome. It may just be that a changing job naturally happens.
Okay, so the plans and the intentions that the me has, and the reasons why a job change needs to happen, are just parts of the story of that me.
In a way, me doesn't really have any intentions. It's just energetic. It just seems to be there. It's awareness of what's happening. And part of that awareness is it just seems to energetically claim what's happening as this is happening to me. And that seems to be a complicating factor to what's appearing, whatever. Because this is happening to me, I now need to manage this. It's my responsibility. So it's my responsibility to make choices and decisions to bring about a better outcome for myself. That's all unbelievably just naturally happening.
But I shouldn't feel irresponsible because the act of taking responsibility arises by itself. So I can rest assured that that will come about.
Well, there isn't a you. There isn't a you to either take responsibility or to not take responsibility. If an apparent taking responsibility happens, then that's just what's happening. There's no one in there doing that. That's what's being suggested.
Well, on the one hand, I feel a sort of a freedom when you say that, and it makes me want to laugh. Like I can just give up whatever I'm worried about. But yeah, I just feel like if I do that, then I'll sit in my room and I won't show up for work and I'll get fired and I won't be able to pay my.
Yeah. Well, there isn't a you that could choose to do that either, of course. And the suggestion here actually is that there isn't a you doing that already. You're already not choosing to go to work.
Yeah.
That's the unbelievable part to this. There is already no one.
Okay. So I know there's nothing I can do with this recognition, and that's the wall I keep coming up against. So yeah, I don't know. Thank you for your time, Neil. I don't know what else to say.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric. And Star has their hand up.
Hi, how is the sound?
Hi, sounds good.
Good, thank you. Thank you for this discussion. It's nice to be here. And Eric, this is also for your ears, just because I connected in my heart with what you were sharing. Neil, the question I had for you, I think sort of has been answered, but I do want to clarify. What I heard in your answer to Eric was also a sense of being versus doing. That, the flow of, if a job that changes comes, it's a resultant, it's not the, it's a side effect of one's own vibration shifting, and so the doing energy is, oh, have to change the job, have to fix it, have to look for a job. And how I hear it is being energy is, okay, what is my, where is my consciousness right now? What am I experiencing? How am I relating to what I'm experiencing? And as that shifts, then the circumstances around us, whatever they are, job, relationship, housing. Oh, I'm sorry, noisy here now. Did you hear this, or it got cut out?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
You did hear it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one just sort of, I guess, takeaway from listening to you, of the being versus doing, which has been my theme. Like I've been a doer getting redirected into being. And then what I heard in Eric's question, which is like, my version of it is, oh, I feel I'll be negligent. I feel like I'll be irresponsible because I've so been about responsibility, right? And identity and ego.
There isn't actually a you. There isn't a you to be with anything. In the one hand, what's being suggested here is all there is being, appearing as doing or appearing as whatever. But there is no one being. There is no thing being. And there is no one who is there is no consciousness. So that's the dream, to be someone is the noticing.
Yeah. And the noticing is the feeling too. Like, how does it feel for me to be sort of, I'm using the words me loosely because I have simplicity as a priority right now.
Okay.
Okay, so the noticing of effortful and trying and working at, as opposed to what happens when I pull the quote irresponsible card and see what happens. I'm putting that in quotes
Well,
because
the message is there is no you to do anything. So the sense to be someone who has to either do something or not do something, or notice what's happening, or be with what's happening in some way is illusory. It's not real.
that's fine and fair. It doesn't shift what I'm sharing right now, which is
Okay.
that there's an awareness in stepping
That's the
back.
dream. That's the dream. Awareness is the dream. Awareness is separation.
And I don't mind that for the sake of saying the sentence that I'm trying to get out, which is there is the stepping back that has been coming forward in life for me of late. And it's like, oh, like I know I need dental care, right? And it's the difference between, just as an example, between all the research that I was doing for the right kind of dentistry and the right dentist, and then working hard to get an appointment, and then not having the right special setup that I need there for some other things, all that effort, as opposed to laying way back and saying, okay, I know that my teeth need fixing. Now that can, I mean, that there's some pain, there's some stuff going on that can happen by dental care, that can happen by spontaneous healing, that can happen by, some other method. And if it happens by dental care, to allow that to show up, which to a part of the mind that can feel like it's irresponsible, like the quote responsible thing to do is to like make an action plan and find the right dentist and then get in there. But I am feeling the new way, is this sort of like let things show up. And it's not irresponsible.
Okay.
It just kind of looks
So
irresponsible according to one matrix.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on
You're
now.
welcome.
But what's being suggested here is that there is no one that any of that is happening to. So the whole sense to be someone who is noticing or allowing or being with something or not being with something is the dreamt reality. Message in the chat. This is so. This is so impossible to say, it will literally never be said, because even this comment is a reaction to that nobody is causing. So where does I start in all of this in the first place? Well, it actually doesn't. The illusion is that there is an illusion of I, that there is an I that arises and then falls away. The whole thing is a dreamt experience. And it's already too late for the me because it's just too spontaneous to even understand. Well, there isn't a me to understand this. And Anita, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, Neil.
Hello.
It looks like a lot of people, including myself, have whoa. Yeah, no, another way. Yeah, it's strange. It's really strange. It looks like they have problems to hear this message. So there is nobody.
Well, it's never heard. And it's what seems to happen is when the person hears this, they turn it into a story of some kind.
Yeah.
And that's an attempt to try and know what's being shared here. So it either isn't heard at all and disregarded completely, Or what usually happens is it's turned into a story that will in some way fit the story that's happening there. That this is about awareness, or about perception, or it's about being with what is, or learning to become something, or it's about acceptance or detachment or something like that. Whatever seems to make sense to the person.
Yeah, but that's all not what it is.
Well, this message is actually about nothing.
Yeah.
Being everything. So it has nothing to do with the person.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with you. Certainly has nothing to do with Neil Denham.
Yeah.
So yes, to answer your question, yes, it's never heard. It's never heard. Not by the person. I think energetically, in some deep way, it can be heard or resonated with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And let's face it, that's the only way anyone would stay and listen to this message. No one would want to hear it otherwise.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. How can what is already cause itself or affect what is? It's impossible. Looping timelessness. Yes, of course. Yeah. What is already can't affect what is already, which is why nothing actually happens. Nothing needs to change. And the message, this is the house at the end of the block, dear. Ah, yes. Yeah. It is for some people, yeah. Does seem to be that way. Does seem to be the last house on the block, the message. Can there be a feeling, irritation, or avoiding other humans for no reason? Well, yes. Yeah. There can be irritation, yeah. Or there might be avoiding someone, yeah. Could it be called clarity with this? I would say that there can be a clarity about the message and the concepts in that kind of sense. There are probably lots of people who've been listening to this message for a while now, who are sort of clear on what's being said in a way, but energetically there's still a sense to be someone who is separate. William.
Hi again. So I'm struggling with something, which is I think that liberation can only happen to someone who's special and worthy and deserves it. Whereas if I'm not worthy, it won't happen. And I do feel unworthy. Like I know that's part of the experience of the me. But part of my mind's going, I think liberation might happen soon. How could it ever happen to me if I'm not worthy?
It'll never happen to you. It doesn't need to happen to you.
But what about, like, so you wouldn't say you're liberated, so I'm sorry if that offends you, but the sense of self dropped, or there's no sense of awareness there, whereas the majority of people in the world would report, I am someone and I have a life and blah, blah, blah. I think there's something special about Neil and Jim and, you don't think you're special what happened there and not in
no, of course not. How could what is already be a special happening? There's no one to be special. There's just nothing left. There's no one left to be in some way special. If let's say liberation had happened to Neil as a result of an effort to find something that Neil had put in, then yes, it might feel special.
Yeah.
I remember getting my black belt in karate, and I'd been training. This was years and years and years ago, like 20 years ago. I'd been training for about 3 or 4 years, so that felt really special to have that black belt and walk into the room with the black belt, because in the dream story, of course, I'd been working really hard to achieve that. And it did seem, as it does for the person in the dream story, that the results are brought about by my own effort. So in that in some way felt special. Neil never found what he was looking for. Neil never found the solution or the answer to apparent separation. Neil was looking for it one day, and then he suddenly wasn't. And then what was recognized here is that there was never a Neil seeking for liberation or freedom or enlightenment or whatever.
That's the problem. I think because the me feels separate to everything that's happening. It thinks, do I deserve this? Am I worthy of it? Am I not worthy of it? And I remember, like, it's been there since I was a little child. Like, I'd get something good that I wanted, but there'd always be that sense of, but I don't really deserve this. Why is this good thing happening to me? And I'm not saying liberation will happen here, because it may very well not. But when I'm resonating with this and the freedom's undeniable, it feels like something good's happening to me that I don't deserve. That's what it is.
Yeah, but the sense for the person is that what's happening is happening to them. So it'll then judge that as being good or bad in some way.
So
and it sees liberation as being the ultimate good thing. This is going to be the ultimate good thing. And liberation will bring about fulfillment because it's the ultimate good thing. And because it's the ultimate good thing, I'll no longer need any more good things.
But the whole question of, do I deserve this or not? Am I worthy? That must surely drop when the sense of person turns out to be an illusion.
Well, yes, there is no one for liberation to happen to. So liberation is already in that sense.
But not just liberation. Like, say if someone knocked on my door now and said, here's like £10 million, there'd be some questioning of, do I really deserve this, or should I take it, or am I not good enough? But
really,
I think I'll take it, and then I'll question afterwards, well, I don't deserve this.
Right.
What have I done? What have I done to deserve this? Whereas, say someone knocked on your door and gave you £10 million, there wouldn't be a questioning of, am I worthy?
Certainly not. No, I'd take it straight away. Wouldn't be a second thought. There wouldn't even be a first thought.
I will take it too.
Yeah, we'll share it. There'll be enough. We'll spread it between the three of us. Okay, thanks, William. I'm going to move on to some questions now in the chat. Thank you. So being a person is apparently going on without anyone being alive. Well, yes, this just apparently continues, yeah. There's just no sense that it's continuing for someone or happening to someone. The irony is that these messages are clear in post-awakening. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. It sounds very paradoxical, and really that's kind of a problem with using words as well when we're talking about this. There are really no words that can point to this. I mean, words are energetic in a way and have an energy of their own, and there are some words that come closer than perhaps other words do. But yes, in some ways, it can be, I say, post-awakening. But yes, when that separate experience is over, so to speak, then yes, it's just obvious. Empty fullness is obvious. Nothing being everything is obvious in a way. So I don't need to get a life. Just kidding. No, you already haven't got one. The person is just another mind-brain activity. Yeah, but I would say it's an energetic felt thing in the body to be a person. There's then sort of other things that are added to that energetic sense to be someone here, such as like we talked about earlier, sort of belief systems, that kind of thing. So they can kind of feel like a kind of a mental activity in a way, or a mind-brain activity in a way. But yes, I mean, yeah, I would say the person is the sense to be someone, to be real, to be here. Although not to someone, doesn't life get easier? Well, no, I would have to say no. Because there is no longer someone that life is happening to where it's easier or harder. What's apparently happening? That's essentially what's being shared here. There is only what is appearing to happen. There's nothing else. There's nowhere else. This is already what's longed for. It seems that the personal experience is to control what is happening within, or as what's already happening. Yes, in a way. The person is the knower, or the energy of the person is to know. The first sense to be someone is a knowing. It's a knowing of here, which then becomes a knowing of I am. And then that sort of knowing starts to grow, and what happens with that knowing, there then comes more need to know. So me wants to know more and more and more and add it to itself in a way. So that whole knowing energy seems to it's a story, but it seems to build and build. And it is in a way to try and control what's happening, for the me to feel like it's in control of what's happening. If I can know this or know what's happening, then I'll be in control. And if I'm in control, then I'll be okay. And William?
So part of the experience of being a person is trying to become worthy and do things to prove to yourself that you're good enough.
Well, that seems to be part of the narrative, yeah, this kind of self-narrative, yeah. It feels as though it has to live in relation to everything that appears, including the appearance of the sense to be someone. So, I mean, this is the impossible task for the apparent person. Is it's managing its relationship to its life, to other apparent people, and also the relationship to itself. So there's a whole narrative going on all the time about how to be with something, how to accept something, how to become something. You know, it's always looking for ways to be which are going to bring about a better experience for it. And that whole need comes out of the sense to be separate.
And so when there's no longer the sense of there being anyone, there's no one who could become a better or worse person. Well, there's no one who could become good enough or any of that story.
No. I'm not really sure. What do you mean by that question, mate?
The person always wants to develop itself, work on itself, improve itself, find out a better way to be, all of these things. And I think a lot of that seems to me to be attached to I'm not worthy or not good enough yet. I'm going to improve myself and become better a year from now.
Yeah, it means insecure. There's a sort of an insecure. It has a sort of an insecurity about it, an insecure energy. Yeah. That whole sort of sense to be someone, or that whole sense to be separate. Yeah, it's a kind of it has an insecure feeling about it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, William. And Anita.
Yeah, maybe I followed in the past too much Buddhist teachings, but can you say there is interrelated nature?
Interrelated nature?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what that means.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay. No, I wondered if you were going to explain it. That's all. I don't know. Is that a Buddhist concept or teaching of some kind?
Yeah, it's a kind of
Interrelated nature. All right.
teaching, yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, no, I've never heard it. That's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Another 5 minutes, everyone. It seems that the personal experience is to control what is happening within or as what's already happening. Oh, I think I already read that one. Next message, but I mean compared to what was apparently happening before, the heaviness of being someone. Okay. Well, there does seem to be a kind of a burden in a way. It's a bit of a story, the sense to be someone. Is the me feels it's responsible for its life. And is responsible for the appearance and for what's happening. So it's now up to me to manage that. It's now up to me to manage what is appearing in my life. So yes, that can seem heavy. There does seem to be a heaviness about the me, that me energy. Haha, so absolutely no one was ever born to ask a question in a non-duality meeting. No, of course not. I'm just going to switch the light on. No, there's no one asking questions. No one's asked a question at this meeting. If there is no person and there is the misunderstanding that there is, that's quite an error. Yes, in a way, but I would say again that the person is a felt sense to be someone. So it's not a misunderstanding or something or an error really in a way. It's something that it's sensed. I am here. And as long as there is that sense to be someone, it seems absolutely real. And I would say there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. There's no suggestion that there's anything wrong with that, because again, all there is wholeness. So that's wholeness appearing as that sense to be someone. And would be super uncomfortable, but if there's a seeing of this life easier. Sorry, I don't understand that question. And would be super uncomfortable, but if there's a seeing of this life easier. Well, there's no one seeing life as being easier. I think that's what the me imagines, that liberation is going to make its life easier. Liberation is going to be something that's going to happen to me, that's going to make my life in some way easier. And that's just not the case. Liberation is the greatest inconvenience, especially if you have plans. If you have plans, and this happens to you, you're screwed. And everything you thought about your life and where it's going and what it all means, it just completely dissolves. All right. The Buddhist term is about the interrelatedness of phenomena, depending on one way or another. Okay, well, there's no relation to anything. There's just a singular appearance. So there doesn't need to be an interrelatedness. For the person, that's how it seems to be. There must be some kind of interrelatedness between the acorn dropping from the tree, which then becomes another oak tree. in some way. This must all balance out. It's just a story. It's just, to me, that sounds like a someone trying to make sense of what's happening. There is only no thing. There is nothing separate. So there is no interrelatedness between things. There's no relationship between things. It's very one-dimensional in a way, in that sense, or no-dimensional. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Is it because there is nobody that the Pope can be infallible? Yeah. No comment. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Neil. Everyone can unmute yourself and say bye, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Neil.
Neil. Thank you, Emerson.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Emerson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emerson.
Thank you.